Have you guys seen those musicians that literally seem like they're breathing music and are like fairy goddesses while the rest of us are just over here like so paralyzed with fear of creating anything that we never even start, and we never even try to be any sort of musician? What's the actual point of learning music if you have to be an influencer and become a slave to the algorithms? You know, because what if I literally just want to make music for the sake of being a human? Am I the only one that's noticed this? Like, especially for women, it seems like you have to be super hypersexualized and be constantly promoting yourself. And then for regular people, it's like, why even try? Because I don't want to be an influencer. I just want to make my music, and even if I don't perform it for someone else, then it's still out into the world. Welcome to the age of musical dissociation, where the music industry / music streaming economy has left us with the feeling that there's literally no point in creating music ever. Today we're diving into the horrifying and concerning causes of creative musical decline. And ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your bloomers, because this is going to be a wild ride on the Music Express. Back in the day, it was a major part of people's childhoods to learn an instrument. People took private lessons, they sang in choirs in church and school, and local marching bands or local orchestras. But as time has gone on, something seems to be going wrong. According to the National Endowment for the Arts, the percentage of Americans between the ages of 18 and 24 who reported having any music education in their lives has dropped by a third to just 38% since the 1980s. In the early 1900s, half of American households owned a piano, and today, only an estimated 28% of households own some sort of piano or keyboard. So why is this happening? What is going on?
It doesn't feel good to admit this, but I legitimately don't have the attention span anymore for TV or movies. Like, I'll put something on and I think I'm going to enjoy it, and then the next thing I know, I'm not enjoying it because I'm just looking at my phone. And sometimes I delay putting the TV on. I'm like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to commit.
I literally get this so much because I myself have been trying to get myself out of this. Like, the other day I was watching the new drop of Bridgerton and I just kept wanting to go on my phone. And that show is so good, and the plot lines are so good, and the costuming and all of the set design and especially the music is so good. Like that arrangement of Feather by Billie Eilish, that was so good. But I don't know why, but I just keep wanting to constantly be stimulating my brain. Even though there's so much going on in front of me already, I just need more and more and more. And the algorithms keep feeding it to us.
Listen, I already knew I had a short attention span, but when it really hit me was when I started watching every single TikTok in 2x speed. And sometimes I feel like that's not even fast enough. Like, am I a squirrel? The fuck?
She's so right with this. We reach for our phones like the second we feel discomfort, and then the algorithms just trap us into this dopamine cycle that it's so hard to break out of. So honestly, I'm not surprised people aren't learning instruments, because you know what learning an instrument takes is focus. And it's not an instant dopamine rush. Actually, it's kind of the opposite because learning an instrument takes so much time and so much focus, and you have to fail over and over and over again in order to finally succeed with your playing. And so these algorithms that are training us like squirrels, like she said in the video, to constantly be programmed for success and for a reward makes it so much harder to learn anything, not just an instrument. I mean, you might be thinking, Alden, but kids are still learning instruments and like they're doing fine. And yes, that is amazing. My counterpoint to that is that a lot of kids have parents who control their screen time. Their brains automatically know that they have to shut that part of themselves off. But I think as adults, especially adults that didn't have limited screen time when they were a kid like me, we haven't learned how to turn that part of our brains off. I'm still working on it. I'm a little bit better than I used to be. But I think that's the first step towards learning something new, especially an instrument, is trying to work out how to break out of that cycle. In my opinion, there are 3 musical archetypes that currently exist: music consumers, music creators, and musicians. There's a very big difference between consuming music and creating music, and I think the lines are constantly being blurred. Let's start with musical consumers. Have you heard that people are starting to get iPods again? I think this is so funny because when I was in middle school, I had my little iPod green iPod Nano, and I would sit and watch movies on it on this literal like 2-inch screen. I'd be watching my movies and streaming like Hilary Duff and the Twilight soundtrack. So I just love that these iPods are coming back. And you know why I think they're coming back is because I think people are just so tired of paying for subscriptions. And yes, I think also people want to get offline, but I think the subscription part of it is so much more true. Because it's just so frustrating to be paying so much money for so many, like a huge list of subscriptions every single month. It adds up so fast. And these subscription platforms have just made it so difficult to access music unless you subscribe. And literally it's like $13 a month now, but when we're 90 and we've been paying these people our entire lives, we'll have paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars listening to this music, and a lot of it we don't even care about. The other problem is that retention rates of songs on these streaming platforms are going so low. Honestly, I kind of blame TikTok for this, just a little bit, because people just got so used to hearing those audio hooks with these viral songs. Now that's like how people consume music. And I mean, artists are responding to this by literally making the music they create shorter to accommodate for people's attention spans. And I don't think this is necessarily a good thing, because when does this end? That's what I wonder. It's like, when does this end? Like when you have like a 10-second song, like is that what music is going to become? Just 10-second songs over and over and over. So I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. And like, yes, while these are the stats, I don't think that's the full story. Because on the flip side of it, like, let's look at the song Golden that came out with K-pop Demon Hunters. People love that song. It's literally been streamed 1.48 billion times. 1.48 billion times. That's insane. And it's not like a 10-second, 15-second song. It's like a regular song length. And so I think music has the potential to keep being something meaningful in people's lives. But I think why specifically the song Golden was so meaningful is the story behind it. The movie is so good, and the artists that created that song were actual K-pop singers that weren't as successful when they were younger trying to make it in the industry. But then when this movie came out, they were wildly successful, and now they've performed all over the world. And so I think the emotional resonance to that song and the story behind it makes it so much more powerful. And so maybe that's where we're headed in terms of musical consumption, is these songs just aren't going to break through unless they have a really strong story underneath it. I don't know. Also, on the flip side is for the argument that people's attention spans aren't declining is because podcasts are doing so well and podcasts last so long. And so I think because we're being just bombarded with so much content daily, I think it's the things that are really meaningful that actually are going to stick out and actually make people want to listen to it because of that deep emotional resonance. So where does this fall in terms of why people aren't making music anymore? I definitely think streaming culture has turned a lot of people away from making music, because if half of us can't even get through an entire song, why would we sit and learn an instrument? I think this echoes the fact that our attention spans are really being messed up right now. And it's not just learning an instrument, it's learning anything. It's focusing on anything and just being trapped in these dopamine loops caused by the algorithms. So speaking of algorithms, let's go to our second musical archetype, music creators. And I use air quotes very intentionally here because these music creators I'm talking about is AI creation. Have you guys heard of Velvet Sundown or Zania Monet? Because these are two of the top AI music creators. Specifically, Zania Monet just drives me insane. I was so shocked when I saw this. She got a record deal for $3 million. That is insane, and she's not real. And so again, I think these record labels are really just shooting themselves in the foot because they're feeding into this thing that doesn't exist because they don't make any money from streaming. And I mean, how is an AI musician actually supposed to perform live? And so I guess they're just banking on the fact that she's the AI is going to get brand deals, and that's how the AI is going to make money. I have no idea why they're doing this. But I think it goes back to streaming. Like, it sounds so good, and it sounds like, oh my gosh, like millions and millions of people are going to be listening to this music and streaming it, and there's just going to be so much money generated. But I don't necessarily think that's the case. And maybe I'll be wrong. I don't know. But I just don't know how long term this AI musician sphere is going to last. Also, I don't know who's making the money behind the music, because if the prompter or whoever, the guy in his basement creating Xania is making all of these songs on AI platforms, does he own the rights to that music if it's all trained on other people's music? Like real creators' music? I don't know. I really have no idea how that works. And I don't think the music industry has figured out how that works either. Like specifically in Nashville, that's just become a huge issue with these PROs, performing rights organizations, is who actually owns the music if the AI music is trained on real people's music. I don't know. It's just a mess. It's just like a hot mess. It's literally horrifying to me and it gives me a headache. I don't know. I think this is like people's new like AI side hustle that they're selling a course for, but don't fall for it. If you actually want to become a musician, in my opinion, this is not the way to go, because you're not actually becoming a musician. You're just programming a musician. You know what I mean? And so you don't actually get the benefits of playing music, because they activate very different parts of your brain. Of course, you can have taste and create songs that are actually really good. I've heard AI songs that literally sound so good, and that's maybe frustrating for real life musicians. But I'm not denying that this AI music is good, but I am denying that you can call yourself a musician if this is all you do. It's not really being a musician. I think it's like being a music creator, not really a musician. But I think this really hurts people that actually want to become musicians, because I think for a lot of people it's like, oh, well, now I have to not only go up against real people, I also have to go up against these AI robots. And I mean, this is something I specifically have had to really come to terms with, because I'm never going to be like a model. I'm never going to look like these AI robots. I'm never going to be able to produce 20 new songs a day or whatever it is to like train the algorithm to like test out these songs. Like that's just like isn't what's gonna happen. And so I think just giving yourself some grace and realizing you don't have to compete because like they're never gonna replace the real thing of playing music in the real world. And yes, they might replace it, like honestly, they might replace music online, but in the real world, they're never going to be able to replace that until the robots rise to power anyways. Because we're also chronically online, I think it makes us feel like we should never start, because what's even the point? But while the music might be good, there's just no substance behind it. Like in the Golden example, there's just so much substance behind the music that AI can't really replace. And maybe it will replace it at some point. I don't know. I think the thing that frustrates me the most is that these AI music creators just make the whole landscape so much more crowded with AI slop and just like this horrible music. But the problem, like some of it is good, but a lot of it is just like AI slop. And as long as these streaming platforms keep accepting it, like there's no incentive for these music creators to actually stop doing it, especially if they're getting $300 million contracts. Like that's just insane. It's just insane. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's like a little bit of a dumpster fire. I'm not gonna lie. But going into this third musical archetype of actual musicians, it is so worthwhile to still make music. But let's talk about the baggage associated with the two different categories of musician, professional and non-professional. So as we've said before, professional musicians today face so many more issues when creating their art. They're going up against these AI music creators. They're facing really low return on investment. Even if they get 3 million streams, they're literally making like pennies on the dollar, like just barely anything. And so streams and virality do not equal income. And that's what I think a lot of people don't understand. In my opinion, today, to be a famous musician, you almost have to be an influencer or have a second job. But that's how a lot of these musicians are scraping by getting brand deals and promoting products, and not necessarily on their music streams. Because the cost of touring has gone up exponentially with inflation. And so for a lot of these smaller musicians, and I say smaller, I have literally heard of musicians that have millions and millions of followers that can't get enough money to tour because it's just so expensive nowadays. And so there's just so many more like problems coming up against real life musicians now. On the flip side, non-professional musicians also have so much pressure because there's so much pressure to commoditize your art and to become that musical influencer. But what if you just want to play in your bedroom for no one except maybe your cat or your dog? and just like make music for the sake of creating music. But I think so many people are just afraid to fail and afraid to start, and even just afraid of being filmed, especially young people. Everything they do is filmed. Everything we do now has to be filmed. You can't just go and perform, even just for your friends, without being, like, a lot of times just being filmed. And so all of your mistakes are broadcasted. This constant surveillance, I think, makes making music so much harder. Because that's not the point of music. Like, the point of music is to make mistakes, especially when you're just beginning. You have to make mistakes constantly and keep failing over and over and over in order to progress as a musician. That's just how it works. But I think this constant, like, surveillance state of always having to film and always having to perform for the camera is just really detrimental for people to even just begin thinking about learning an instrument. And then if you add that to the expense of private music lessons, which today are in the hundreds of dollars an hour, it just makes this whole cloud of issues. And so someone that's on the outside of that cloud, like, can't see a path through it. You know what I mean? If you're someone who really wants to learn an instrument, just take comfort in the fact that there's so many things that are outside of your control that are making it harder for you to get started. All of that being said, I still think learning an instrument is so worth it. And that's why I started Wild Music Co. And that's why I wrote my book for adults to learn piano and not have to pay for such expensive lessons. I believe there are so many people with music inside of them that have just never had the opportunity to pursue it. But that music inside of them needs to be created and needs to get out. And I think the real reason our society has stopped valuing music and learning music is because so many of us have never experienced creating it in the first place. So we don't know how amazing it can be. Like, if you've never spent a night singing with your friends in a choir, like, you just don't know how transformational and how amazing that musical experience can be, and how human that experience is, and how raw and real, and how lifting your voice or playing in an orchestra or whatever musical activity you're doing, how amazing that can be. And it's hard to explain that to someone who's never experienced it, but I will try. But I encourage you to try to seek those experiences out. Join a local choir. Start learning an instrument with YouTube tutorials, or if you want to learn piano, my book can help you. For millions of years, humans have been creating music and learning music, and there's this innate human desire in us to create. And there's absolutely no reason that we need to stop doing that right now. As society, and specifically American society, is getting farther and farther away from actual human connection and these shared musical experiences, we need to try harder to seek them out. Because otherwise we're going to just keep drowning in this noise that we had no part in creating. When you're creating music, all of that noise disappears. It's just you and your instrument or your voice creating something fleeting and fragile and real. And the mistakes you make while you learn are just threads within this intricate tapestry of sound and silence that you weave. No matter your age or your background, if you're a human, you're meant to make music. You just have to be brave enough to start. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, and don't forget to look at the free guide in the description on how you can become a musician. See you next time!